Hi, I'm Maddie. Today at TCS we're going to be talking to Dr. Jordan Peterson. Dr. Peterson is a clinical psychologist and professor of clinical psychology at the University of Toronto. He's achieved notoriety in recent years for his controversial views on freedom of speech and gender equality. Nevertheless, he's also gained a large following, particularly among young men, who find inspiration in his teachings. Dr. Peterson, it's wonderful to have you here with us today at Cambridge. You've experienced issues at universities before with protests, petitions, that sort of thing. I wondered if you've noticed a big difference in atmosphere between sort of US, Canadian universities and European universities?
No, I wouldn't say so. It's more a university-to-university issue than a country-to-country or state-to-state issue, and it varies tremendously. Like, most of the time, it goes like tonight went, which is great, but sometimes it goes terribly, and so, and it's unpredictable. And generally, what I think it is it goes terribly when there's a group of activists who aren't occupied by something else that week and decide to make an issue out of it. And sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. I think there are institutions where that's more likely to happen, but there's a random element to it too. And, you know, and in most institutions, most students are quite sensible and quite diligent and not particularly interested in radical politics. And so even in those institutions where I've hit mobs, I don't generally presume that they're representative of the institution. So they might be representative of a certain subset of professors, but yeah.
In the past, your rhetoric has been sort of quite diagnostic and of society's failings. And I wondered if you feel you're now taking a more prescriptive approach?
No, I don't really think so. I think I took a prescriptive approach all along. It's just that what happened to me in Canada was that there were some occurrences, both at my university and at the government level, that I thought weren't inappropriate. And so I complained about those, I would say, or voiced my objections to them. And so that sounded like a critique, and it was a critique of those very specific issues. But, I mean, ever since I started lecturing seriously, which would have been in the early 1990s, fundamentally, I've been diagnosing and prescribing at the same time. It's like, here's a set of problems, and here's... Because I always thought, it was an article of faith with me, that if you could specify the problem with sufficient accuracy, then a solution would emerge. And I had a notion about what the solution might be, which is something like truth and the radical adoption of responsibility since the 1990s. And I've been saying that consistently to students ever since. So, and that's really, and that's why the political scandal around me continued, didn't just die out or didn't take me out, because it was not so relevant compared to what else I was offering.
Yeah.
People came to my websites because they were curious about who this reprehensible individual was. And then they started watching what I was saying and found that it was extremely useful.
So you think the media is less interested in you as a sort of teacher figure? Oh,
they're not interested in me at all in that, because it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. It's like the media mostly covers politics.
Yeah.
This isn't political, fundamentally.
Do you not think your work's political?
Not particularly, no. I mean, it has political implications insofar as the idea of the sovereign individual. See, it's not political because the idea of the sovereign individual is actually a predicate of the political system. So it's deeper than politics. Like, if you're talking about constitutional issues, that's no longer political. It's something else. It's philosophical. And if you're talking about what is underneath the constitutional axioms, then you're even at a deeper level. That might be theological even. You know, we hold these truths to be self-evident. That's not a political statement. It's the statement you have to make before you engage in politics. And when politicians jump outside of the political game and go underneath and start to play around carelessly with the infrastructure, then as far as I'm concerned, that's not political.
Yeah.
It's something else.
Do you think the benefits of the platform, your recent recognition, have outweighed the negatives of the accompanying scrutiny and controversy in terms of delivering your message?
Yes, definitely. I mean, my life has been extended in two directions. I mean, a variety of very terrible things have happened to me over the last 2 years, and a variety of unbelievably good things. So it's like the amplitude of my life has expanded, but I've got no regrets or complaints about it. I mean, I'm in an unbelievably fortunate position at the moment. And so, and if the price for that, it's not surprising that there's a certain price that might be extracted for that. It's like, that's fine.
So you wouldn't go back?
There's no going back in life.
True.
No, they call that retrogressive restoration of the persona. It's not a good psychological move.
No, fair enough.
Right.
So lastly, what do you think the most important rule in your book is, if you had to pick one?
It's probably to tell the truth or not to lie.
Because also the most difficult one?
It's the most chronically difficult one, I would say, because it applies to everything you do all the time. So, but it's also what gets the ball rolling with regards to everything else in a positive direction. It's unbelievably useful. And it makes sense. It's like, well, look, what? Do you want reality on your side or against you? Well, you think, well, I can get away with having it against me. Well, that's what you do when you lie. It's like, no, you can't. You can't. It'll flatten you. And you might get away with it for a short period of time, but you don't get away with anything ever.
True.
So,
thank you very much.
Good to meet you.
Lovely to meet you, thank you. That was Dr. Jordan Peterson. I hope you enjoyed the interview and keep watching TCS Telly for more interviews in the future.